Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Madcap and there's another video on Watcher of Realms. We are back on the test server because while the big news, the big champion, that kind of the reveal was Lust, we don't know exactly when she's coming to Forerunner or to Global, but we do know she's pretty fun. And yes, I'm getting ever closer to running a full team and doing some testing in the Dragon with her team around her, which should make her and the entire team so much better. I'm looking forward to that test, which will be another video this week. But today I want to talk about the other three champions that are part of a focus of some coming to Global, some coming to Forerunner for the first time. There are three champions that we need to talk about today. The first champion we're going to talk about is Helga. We're also going to talk about Valderon. And finally, we are talking about Artemis. So these are three new champions that are coming to the game. We want to take a first look at the kits and my kind of initial reaction. I haven't played with any of them. I haven't leveled any of them. I'm just taking a look at them. But I do see some really fun stuff ahead for us. The first we want to talk about in the Chaos Dominion will be the new Chaos Lord. Gone, gone, gone. She's been gone so long. You're no longer the solo Lord of the legendary status. There is now Valderon. Valderon is already in Forerunner, so we expect to see him in Global at some point soon. What soon is, could be next week, could be next month, could be 6 months from now. But having already been on the Forerunner, looking forward to seeing this behemoth of a whale inspired character. Valderon, he is the most primal chaos that has corrupted this hero, and what I see. So let's talk about some of the key features I see. First off, 2 square instead of a 1 square ahead of him. He's a fighter. He's a chaotic lord. He's got those 2 squares instead of 1 in front of him. That is kind of cool. I also want to take a look at and just mention that his base attack is 6649. 6649 is pretty dang bonkers. He's going to hit hard, especially when you take a look at his kit and all the other things he can do. Let's take a look at his kit now, starting with the Lord bonus. Everyone knows the 15%. Everyone knows from Vladoff up the 60% lost HP, or 60% up to 60% damage when they lose HP, up to 30% at 30% HP. I don't know. Words are hard. English is hard. The more the Chaos faction loses, the more damage they do. They get down to 30% HP. They get up to 60% damage. That's what I'm trying to say. But Valderon, when the Faction Lord Valderon is deployed, he, on deployment, deals damage equal to 50% of current HP to 3 nearest units, excluding elites and bosses, increasing his damage dealt by 30% and reducing his damage received by 20%. And for each unit damaged, further increases his damage dealt by 5% and reduces his damage received by 5% up to 3 times. So this looks like a permanent buff. It's interesting. It's a Lord skill, but it's really just for him. Usually a faction lord offers some sort of faction bonus, but it's just him. So he's going to deal damage to up to 3 enemies when he is placed. That's going to give him 30 to 45% increased damage dealt and 20 to 35 incoming damage reduction. Pretty cool skill for a fighter, especially. It's a Lord skill. Obviously, the other 2 pieces are going to help the whole team. He's going to be a pretty badass champion. Mark my words. The second one, let's talk about his talent. His basic attack has at least a 25% chance to trigger Chaotic Annihilation instead. So that is a basic attack. Of course, let's take a look at his basic attack. It's just hitting 100% damage to one enemy. You can bump it up to 120%. But instead, there's a 25% chance that it does Chaotic Annihilation, which deals 270% damage to one enemy and spreads 20% of damage dealt up to 5 nearby enemies. So a bit of an AoE or splash damage is probably more accurate. And then also, a lower HP grants higher chance to trigger Chaotic Annihilation. We don't know what the exact numbers are there. It just tells us that's a chance. And the maximum chance of 50% when HP falls to 30. So if you go from 100 down to 30, it's a 70%. It's a 70% swing to do 25 to 50 to go 25% extra damage. Or extra chance, sorry. So pretty cool talent. The chance to trigger that 270% damage plus the splash damage is going to be quite good for the single target in front of you. You're already getting increased damage because of his Lord skill. You're already getting reduced incoming damage because of his Lord skill. But wait, there's more. This guy gets a little bit bonkers. By the way, his cost is 19, revival time 60, block is 2, all pretty standard. But let's talk about his ultimate. His ultimate gains 1 stack of chaotic vitality. When potent surge reaches its maximum, gains 2 stacks of chaotic vitality and inflicts vulnerability physical damage on nearby enemies. The physical damage vulnerability is 20% plus 20, which is amazing during the duration. So that is for the total of 20 seconds. Now you see this attribute increase for each stack 555. We'll talk about that. So 1 stack of chaotic vitality loses 10% of each HP of current HP per second. Each stack increases attack by 25 and crit damage by 25, stacking up to 2 times. So what does this mean? Quite what it looks like, and you're going to get an extra 15% when booked. So that's a 25 to 40% attack and crit damage for each stack. And at the same time, he's going to lose 10% of his HP. So he's sacrificing 10 HP per second for 20 seconds. You do the math. But he's gaining 50, what is it, 25, 35, 40% extra attack and crit damage. But wait, there's also this potent surge. Well, what potent surge does is allows him to continue to recover rage after reaching cap to 2 times. So you can basically hold 200% rage. When you hit 200% rage, it gives you a 2nd stack of chaotic vitality. Now it says each stack. So that means we're now at 50% and 50% plus the extra 15. So that's 65 and 65%. So pretty crazy still. Now you may be looking at it and going, wait a minute. So if he's going to lose 10% of current health per second for 20 seconds, he's going to have very little health. Well, yeah, that's how they work. Now keep in mind, some people go, oh, that's 10%. That's in 10 seconds he's dead. No, because it's 10% of current health. So if he's got 100% health and say his health is 20,000, that means he's going to lose 2,000 the first time. But then that's going to mean he's at 18,000. So then the second tick, he's going to lose 1,800, so on and so forth. That's how it works. Just so a lot of times people just do the quick math in their head. The math says, well, 10% is 10% of it. If you do that 10 times, he's dead, and that's 20 seconds. But it doesn't work that day. It's diminishing returns, right? So that's what we have for his ultimate. But his passives are really what makes him very interesting here. Not only is that's just a ton of damage for someone with that high of a base attack. He's going to hit like an absolute monster. But he's got a couple passives here. He's got Karma of the Fallen. So when Karma of Fallen is less than 3 stacks, the hero can prevent incoming fatal damage, then restores 30% HP and gains 1 stack of Karma of Fallen. So he starts at 0. He prevents incoming damage, puts himself at 30% HP, gains a stack. Upon death or retreat, each stack of Karma Fallen increases revival time by 30 seconds. So he starts at 60, and then he can have up to 3 stacks. So that's another minute and a half. So that's 2.5 minute revival time, which is obscene. Each time the hero gains chaotic vitality, he can be protected from gaining Karma of the Fallen. Now, chaotic vitality, if you remember, happens during his ultimate. So for the first 3 seconds of gaining chaotic vitality, either the single stack or double stack, because they all happen, it happens instant. So it's not like if you have 2 stacks of chaotic, it happens at the same time. So I suspect that won't make it 6 seconds. It's still gonna be 3, but you can put books into this to mean revival time for each stack is minus 10 seconds when booked. So that's 20 seconds. So that's an additional 60 seconds instead of a minute and a half. And then you can see an extra 2 seconds of protection time. So when this guy gets down to near fatal death and he's about to take a hit, pop his ultimate. His ultimate happens. He starts losing health. He starts hitting way harder. And he's got this Karma of the Fallen, which is going to prevent him from taking fatal damage. It's going to prop him back to 30 seconds. And for the first 5 seconds of his ultimate, he's going to be protected from taking any of these stacks. So he's still going to be at 0 stacks for the first 5 seconds. So you're up against a big epic or elite boss or champion or whatever that's hitting him for his whole health. Hits him for 100,000. Who cares? For 5 seconds, he will not only be protected from death, but he won't gain any extra Karma of Fallen. So it still will be less than 3. Therefore, he will keep restoring himself, preventing damage. After the 5 seconds, then he has 2 additional attacks, or deaths, if you will, as the third stack. The third death would be permanent because then he would have 3 stacks, okay? Or maybe it'll be 3 total because it'll be 0, 1, it'll be 0, he dies, now it's 1, he dies, now it's 2, he dies, now it's 3, now he's in trouble. But that gives him a whole lot of extra live time, so you can actually play with him not being healed for a very long time, and he's actually going to be survivable, which is crazy, and it's a passive. This, to me, when booked, just seems absolutely bonkers. 5 seconds of essential invulnerability while hitting his ultimate, which is giving him a ton of extra damage, which, by the way, don't forget, his passive has a chance at that chaotic annihilation, hitting for 270 plus splash damage while running his ultimate, while running this passive where he's unkillable for a significant amount of time. And on top of it, he has Anarchy's Pulse. When chaotic annihilation hits a target, which is his basic that gets swapped out for this big hit, restores 30 extra rage. When an ally on the battlefield dies, restores 20% rage. So here's a little fun for you. Have Laurel on the team with Valderon. Valderon gets low in health. You drop low, you pick her up, 50% rage plus 20% rage because he gets it from the battlefield. If you can pull someone else off the battlefield, even better. Then he gets another 20% rage. The guy's practically ult ready. Pop his ult. Then you get to do all that damage under basically 5 seconds on vulnerability plus 2 to 3 extra hits. I'm not quite sure. The wording makes it sound like you might get 3 extra opportunities there, but I could be wrong in there, so I don't want to lead you the wrong way. So overall, absolutely ridiculous. And by the way, rage restored upon hit, +5, +5, +10, and then rage restored from allies' death, +10%. So fully booked, it's even crazier. He gets, he restores an extra, 50 rage? When a chaotic annihilation hits, a target restores 50 booked rage, and when you Laurel Strat or any other sort of champion dies on the battlefield, doesn't have to be near him, just on the battlefield, who's going to restore 30% rage. That's everything about that feels just bonkers. Everything about that just feels crazy. And in case you're wondering where they want you to use them, like every other Chaos faction champion, arena cost reduced by 5, so it goes from 19 to 14. Overall, crazy kit. This guy's going to hit for bonkers damage. I can't wait to see him in action. I might do some testing on him, though admittedly, where I really would like to see him is in arena, which we can't really test on the test server, so we might just have to hold our breath till it comes to public and then hope I get him. But at some point, maybe I will give him a run. Maybe we'll do if there's no other means, maybe when he actually hits public servers, I'll jump on the test server and do some testing of him just to kind of give you an idea. Maybe we'll take him to normal 9, where you've got those big heavy hitting champions. We can kind of fake test his kit, something like that. But Valderon's the first champion. That's just the first champion. That's kind of my favorite one coming in. But we also have a couple others from the Esoterra faction. We have who must be Vierna's sister, like same makeup company anyway. Probably Maybelline. Maybe it's Maybelline. I don't know. Maybe it's not. I can't even believe I just made that joke. I apologize. So Helga is kind of a cool kit too. Another champion that at some point I want to test here. Now Helga is going to be available in a legendary summon on Forerunner, if not already, then soon. Soon, of course, being whenever Moonton decides, so soon could be whenever. But she has a kit. First of all, let's take a look at her details. The big thing I want to mention here, and is probably important. First of all, she's got some nice range. She's got that good tile range, very similar to Aracha. She's a multi-strike, burst damage, and control. She's got 4992. That's pretty darn good attack. Sure, it's not legendary Lord Chaos attack, but it's still pretty darn good. But the most important thing about her is this 2.6 second interval, 100 seconds, which you're like, well, that's the same as just about everyone's capper. Why is that important? Well, I'll tell you why. Because of her talent. She gains specialized attack speed, provides a greater reduction in attack interval based on the attack speed attribute. They don't tell us what this is. It just means that for every one speed you put on this champion, she has a greater lowered attack interval. So if normally you can get to 1.1 with 400 speed, and I'm just using imaginary numbers, maybe she gets to 1 speed a 400 attack speed. She gets to 1 attack interval. I don't know what the numbers are. We'll have to play around with it. We might do that in a future video when she gets a little closer to coming to public server. I don't really want to showcase these 3 because I don't know when they're coming to the public. Lust was a big deal, and I think she's by far the class the class of the show. But I do want to at some point get onto these champions when they get closer to being on public server. But let's still go over her kit. So she gets enhanced attack speed. Why is that important, you ask? Well, I'm glad you asked, because I'm going to tell you. Because she deals 60% magic damage to one enemy. If the target is not blocked by the hero, deals an additional 20% damage 2 times. Now remember, she's got extra distance in her damage. So maybe you pulled Valderon, maybe you pulled whoever in front. Who cares? You have someone in front blocking for her or also doing damage for her. I would suggest that she be a good fighter-fighter combination. I'm thinking guild boss, but I'm sure there's other applications for that. Think of having, okay, just put this in your mind as we go over her kit. Say you have Valderon and you're using him as a lord and you put him in front and you put her behind, okay? Now let's go over her kit. So he's doing tons of damage to even high HP, high resistance bosses. He's doing tons of physical damage. She's going to come in and do some magic damage in case that's what you need to get over the hump. So she's going to, so if it's not blocked, it's 60%. If it's not blocked, it's an additional 20. So 80% 2 times, right? So it does 60 damage. If she's not blocked, it does 100 total damage because it's doing an additional 20% 2 times. So 60 plus 20 plus 20. Then you can get an extra 20 here. So she's going to do 120% damage so long as she's not blocking, she's booked, and someone's in front of her, like a Valderon, like in our supposed thing. That doesn't sound that exciting yet. But wait. So she's got Shadow Blitz. Rapidly strikes the target with the highest HP in range, which hopefully is the champion right in front of you, dealing 20% damage 4 times every X seconds. X is equal to 30% attack interval, which becomes shorter as the hero's attack speed increases. So remember we talked about her specialization gets that quicker attack speed. So let's say we get her down to an easy 1 second. Say we get her lower, but 1 second for math is easy. So that means if she has a 1 second attack interval, which it's easier to get to, then she's gonna do 20% damage 4 times every 0.7 seconds, or sorry, 0.3 seconds. 0.3 seconds, 30% attack interval. Your attack interval is 1, so 0.3 is 30%, right? So 0.3 so she's doing 4, she's dealing 20% every 4 times every 0.3. So every second she's roughly getting more than, with fractions left over, she's getting 3 of those, or 12 hits at 20% damage. You do the math. That's some crazy hits. I'm thinking right away the Immortal Codex, right? I'm thinking you're Lord of Sticks. You're going to break that shield quite easily with this. If 1 second is attainable, imagine what like a Deegs can do. Screw Deegs. I'm just kidding. I love you, Deegs. Deegs and I, we go way back. He's one of my favorites, by the way. And I don't just say that because he's a whale. I say it because he's really funny, and it amuses me. And he's Australian. I don't know why that matters, but just add it to his biography. Anyway, so think of some of those high-end players with the high-end gear being able to get 500-600 speed on this champion, where you're getting down to what, 0.7? 30% of 0.7? The numbers are just mind-boggling on this champion. Now that's going to last for 7 seconds. The effect duration can go up to 10, and the damage can do an extra 5%, so 25%. And the skill cost down by 1. This is going to potentially be a pretty obscene ability. Now, this game hasn't put effects onto gear yet. If it ever does, right now this champion's going to be even crazier. I don't know if they ever will. Maybe they never will. But I was just thinking in my head, what happens if they ever do that? Now she's got a couple passives. During her ultimate, every 8 times of damage dealt to the same target inflicts stun and 100% damage. So instead of the 25% booked, you're going to get 120% booked damage and a stun, which obviously guild boss, who cares? But against things like, I'm thinking normal 9 is that campaign is a perfect example where you've got those big lumbering idiot like almost mega bosses, but they're just tanks, and you can stun them, which of course, again, if you have Valderon, remember I think put Valderon in front, he's surviving longer than you're stunning, which gives a chance to maybe get him healed up and get, so you can play around with that a lot. And that's just with putting someone. Now, there's a reason why I said Valderon in the lead, and let me tell you, her other passive is what's important here. This is a 1 second stun, by the way. This is the part that I just think is bonkers, and it's weird that it's Valderon that I feel is, but there's other champions that can do this, that can lean into this. When there's an ally within 1 tile ahead, increases crit damage equal to 10% of that ally's crit damage. So think of Valderon. You're going to build him 300 crit damage, 400 crit damage. He's going to get an extra 50 crit damage. He's going to get an extra, I think there's another place where he's going to have obscene crit damage, and she's just going to borrow 10% of it, up to 15% of it. So 15% of his 400, 500 crit damage, where's the limit? So you put Valderon in front. He's immortal. He's got all this crit damage. She's borrowing his crit damage, and she's hitting 1 billion times a second. I think that scenario, and any other scenario as such, like it doesn't just have to be that scenario, but she can obviously borrow from anyone. Maybe you put someone tanky, but you've got these weird pieces that have high HP, high crit damage. You put those on a Regulus. You put those on a Brokir. You don't need the crit damage, but because you're boosting his crit damage and he's 1 tile in front of her, you're going to boost her crit damage during her ultimate. So I just think, not even during the ultimate, just whenever, right? So plenty of fun opportunity for Helga. I really like Helga. I think she'll be fun. I think she'll be really fun to use. I don't know if she's going to be game-changing like Lust, potentially, but I think she's going to be universally useful. I think anytime you need a fighter with damage and you can load it up with a blocker or like a high damage survivable champion in front of her, I think it's just going to be a lot of fun. So I'm excited to see her. I think Guild Boss is easy, but to use her full kit, it's probably going to be maybe an Arena. I think would be amazing. Valderon and her in Arena. Now, her 18 cost does make it a little bit prohibitive in that case, but overall, looking forward to this champion. But we even have one more champion, and this champion's probably the biggest question mark for me because I'm not 100% sure in my mind how to use him as effectively as some of the other healers in the game, and that's Artemis. Artemis is a magic-based healer. He heals based on strength, and he's got anti-healing abilities. Let's take a look at his details. The first thing I like right away is he's got really good attack, 54-66, which does make him pretty easy to build out attack and get some good heals. I also notice his attack range is a standard 4x3 box. Like, for example, Piercers. I kind of wish he was a Piercer as well as a Cultist. I think that would make it really interesting, especially seeing Piercers are severely lacking heals. They got 1. She's pretty good. But wouldn't it be nice if you had a legendary option in that faction? And I feel like his range would make that really interesting. Unlike Eloin, who has the same 4x3, but it's 1 tile behind and 2 in front, he's actually got all of his in front and, of course, either side. So a little bit different of a grid, which may lend to different options depending on what tower defense you're doing. So that might be the biggest bonus for him. His kit's a little bit interesting. So his talent has this: when healing allies applied with blood craving, and it increases healing received from Artemis base's attack by 30, restores 2% rage. So he restores himself rage when he's healing someone who has blood craving, means they're getting healed for more. And we'll get to that. It's one of his passives. So his basic one is attack-based healing to 1 ally in range. Healing multiplier plus 20% on books. His ultimate. During the ultimate, locks onto enemies, dealing 160% AoE damage up to 8 enemies with each attack and inflicting anti-healing on them. So not a whole lot of anti-healing. Let's see here. Now we have the Artemis here, unable to recover HP for 3 seconds. Now there's a 15 second, so obviously it's a 3 second, so it's going to be 18 seconds, right? And there's an extra 5 seconds, so 23 seconds of anti-healing to the 8 enemies probably closest to him. Now, there is a bit of a caveat, so please put a pin in this one because we've got to talk about this. He's also doing AoE damage. I think this will be nice damage. I don't think it's going to be game-changing damage, but it could be interesting in cases of anti-air maybe, or that sort of thing where you're getting some healing out of a champion and you're also getting some damage, so he's not just a passenger in the fight. we'll see. This is where my confusing part about him. Maybe let me know in the comments down below. When I'm done this, think about Artemis and his kit. Where do you think he's going to be the most useful? He is not yet on Forerunner. He will be on Forerunner soon. So we'll see him in public later, after probably the other two that we just talked about. So he puts anti-healing, but let's talk about his passives, because this is where it gets a little bit confusing. During the ultimate, heals up to 3 allies around the target with 100% healing multiplier upon hit. Basic attack prioritizes enemy targets during the ultimate unless there are only allies in range. So what this says to me is you have 8 slots altogether. If there are less than 8 enemies, it'll choose up to 3 allies. So 5 enemies, 3 allies. If there's 4 enemies, 3 allies, that's how this ultimate will work. He'll heal the 3 allies, but he prioritizes the enemies first from his ultimate, which again is up to 8. So it seems like the three is it's saying it prioritizes enemies. So if there's 20 enemies, too bad. If there's 8 enemies, there's too bad. If there's 7 enemies, 1 ally will get targeted. That's what this reads to me. I think it seems to make sense, but it's going to give him some big heals during the ultimate to allies, should you be able to use this and time it. And that's where, again, his kit's a little bit confusing, because if you get overloaded on one side, suddenly your team's not getting healed. And if your team's not getting healed during the ultimate, then you might die, etc., etc. So it seems a little bit strange to me. But he does have this, which is the tonic, which every 30-second cooldown periodically locks onto allies, excluding himself, and throws the sanguine tonic on them. When hitting a target, applies blood craving. So the tonic applies this blood craving. That's part of his talent, which means they're going to get increased healing, and he's going to get 2% rage. So it's going to be a really nice, especially on longer fights where he can get this. I assume that the tonic lasts for 30 seconds. So no, the blood craving lasts for 10 seconds, and the tonic has a 30-second cooldown between periodical applications. That's right. Again, it seems a little bit convoluted, because the goal would be in long extended fights to get him onto 2 or 3 champions with this tonic. But if it's a 30-second cooldown on the locking onto allies, I don't know. This seems a little bit weird to me, but potentially it's going to restore rage for him. It's going to improve heals on the champion that gets this tonic. This 10-second blood craving. It seems like only one ally can have this at a time, and its uptime is very small. The cooldown can be down to 20 seconds. The healing multiplier can be up to plus 60, so 180 healing, which is nice. But I don't it just seems too infrequent, I guess, for me. But let me know what you think in the comments down below of his kit. It is different. It is strange. What I will say is the most important thing is his somewhat unique range on his heals. I think that I'm cautiously not impressed by this champion. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just looking at it wrong, which is why I need your help in the comments down below. But I also see, to me, make him part of the Piercer faction, and I change it, because then he's got 5 tiles forward of healing, and that makes him really good. So again, I don't know. Would you ever use him over Vortex or Hollow? Let me know in the comments down below. But those are the 3 new heroes, as well as, of course, Lust, who we already went through. Lust, hopefully tomorrow or the next day, I'm going to get a video playing with her in the clan boss. More than just damage testing, we're going to do team damage testing. I've had to do a bunch of runs in the I was doing Gear Raid 1 and Gear Raid 3 just to try to get some gear on these champions. I have some gear that we can kind of do some showcasing. Still not anywhere near where it needs to be, but it is what it is. So you can see here, I do have her in the 70. We've got, what we're going to do is we're going to bring all the Nightmare team in against Aracha as lead. Actually, we're probably going to use Lunaria as lead, to be fair. We're going to use Wrath as lead, so we have the 2 leads. These 2 are going to get to sit on there. We're going to bring in Hollow. We're going to bring in Dolores, and then we're going to boost the Nightmare team. We're going to put 4 Nightmare team down. We'll put 5 down. We'll pull 1 off the map, which I believe is if we put her down and then another one down that does do, and when you pull them back, it doesn't lose the 15%. Anyway, that's I seem to recall that being a thing. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna see what kind of damage. Then we're gonna swap gear because I want to see. I want to see a baseline. So this is the best gear I have, or at least the best rated champion I have. When we put her in that gear, what is the result going to be? That's kind of my thought. So we'll let you know that for the next video. But that is it for this video. What do you think of the champions? What do you think about Artemis? Are you excited about any of the champions? If you're playing on Forerunner, how are a couple of those champions which are on the Forerunner right now? Let us know in the comments down below. But overall, this is the end of the video. So please, as always, be kind, be safe, and we'll see you in the next video.